Hey everyone, throwaway account because my main has people I actually know on it. I'm 34 meters, married to my wife K30 to F for 6 years. Up until a few months ago, I honestly thought we had a pretty good marriage, definitely not perfect, but stable. We'd been through the usual stuff couples deal with. Career changes, money stress, my dad's health issues last year. Nothing that made me think our relationship was on the verge of imploding. But looking back now, the cracks were forming long before I acknowledged them. It started small little changes that didn't seem like a big deal at first. Kay suddenly became super protective of her phone. Before, she'd leave it on the couch, the counter, the bathroom sink, face up, no problem. Then one day I realized she never left it anywhere and she always kept it face down. She also slapped on a new passcode and acted weirdly defensive when I casually asked what she changed it to. Why do you need to know? It's my phone, she snapped. I laughed it off at the time because she gets moody sometimes. And honestly, I was just trying to avoid an argument. She also started spending more evenings working late. At first I believed her job has busy seasons, but the late nights became more frequent and less believable. When I'd text her around 9 p.m. asking when she'd be home, she'd either not respond or send something like, "Ugh, stop blowing up my phone, I'm busy." Totally unlike the person I married, who used to send me photos of her desk snacks because she wanted me to feel included. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it. Everyone goes through phases. People get stressed. I didn't want to be that husband, the paranoid, insecure one. But the nagging feeling wouldn't leave, and that's where this all really began. So, fast forward a couple of weeks. At this point, the weird vibes weren't just vibes anymore, they were becoming routines. Kay was snappy, dismissive, and constantly irritated with me over literally nothing. I'm not proud of this, but in my head I started calling her bitchy Kay, because the way she was acting didn't resemble my wife at all. I know that's harsh, but that's honestly how it felt. Then came the night everything shifted from something's off to okay, what the hell is going on? She was in the shower getting ready for another late work shift, and her phone miraculously was left on the dresser. Screen lit up. I swear I wasn't snooping, it just caught my eye because it kept buzzing. Same contact at the top. Morgan. Now here's the thing, Kay has a co-worker named Morgana, and I figured maybe that was a nickname. But the messages popping up weren't about work. The preview on the lock screen said, "Can't wait to see you." Last night was insane. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I'd swallowed concrete. I froze. I didn't touch the phone, didn't unlock it. Didn't scroll, just stared at the notification like it was a live grenade about to explode. Kay walked out of the bathroom a minute later, towel in her hair, totally casual. When she saw where I was looking, her face tightened for half a second like a micro expression of panic, before she plastered on this irritated, condescending tone. "What? Why are you creeping around my phone?" she snapped, and that was the moment I knew I wasn't imagining things. Something real was happening, and it was worse than anything I'd let myself consider. That was the first domino that fell. After the Morgan text incident, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I didn't confront her right away because honestly, I was in shock. My brain felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under it and was still shaking it midair. For the next couple of days, I was hyper-aware of everything Kay did. Every time she went to the other room to answer a call, every time she smirked at her phone, every time she got dressed a little too nicely for inventory shift. I felt this tightness in my chest like I was bracing for a punch. Then came the moment she made her first big slip, like she forgot to keep her story straight. She told me on Thursday morning that she had a mandatory team meeting after work and wouldn't be home until around 8 p.m. Fine. Whatever. I pretended not to care, even though my mind was spinning. Around 6:30 p.m., I got a notification from our shared bank account. Kay had used our card at a restaurant across town, not near her job, not near any office building. A sit-down Italian place we'd gone to for anniversaries. I called her. She didn't pick up. Then I texted, "How's the meeting going?" A full 5 minutes later, she replied, "Still in it." Why? I swear my hands were shaking. She was flat out lying to my face in real time. I texted back, "Just checking." That was it. I didn't call her on it yet. I needed needed more than just a restaurant charge. I needed to see the full picture before I walked into the explosion I knew was coming. But that was the moment sitting on the couch. 2 days after the restaurant slip-up, everything escalated again, this time without me even trying. I was doing laundry because Kay had no time lately translation. She was too busy being shady, and I grabbed the hamper from our bedroom. I wasn't digging for anything. I wasn't snooping. I literally just wanted clean socks. But then, at the bottom of the hamper, I found one of K's blouses balled up weirdly tight like she'd stuffed it there in a hurry. It was the silky navy one she usually only wore on dates or special events. The moment I picked it up, something felt off. It smelled like perfume, but not hers. More like a man's cologne mixed with some kind of overpowering citrus scent I didn't recognize. And here's the kicker. The blouse had a smear of foundation on the collar. Not K's shade, not even close. I froze again, but this time it wasn't shock, it was this strange, cold clarity. Like my brain had switched from panic to observation mode. Suddenly all the small moments from the past few weeks lined up in my head, like puzzle pieces finally clicking together. I checked the pockets of her jeans and the hamper again, not snooping. Just doing laundry, and out fell a crumpled receipt from the same Italian restaurant. To entrees, one dessert, to glasses of wine. Timestamp, the exact time she told me she'd been in a meeting. I sat down on the floor right there in the hallway with the receipt in my hand, and for the first time, the reality actually hit me hard enough to hurt physically. It felt like by the time the next morning rolled around, I couldn't function. I barely slept, and when I did, it was that jittery, half-awake kind of sleep where your brain replays the same awful loop. The receipt, the blouse, the cologne I didn't recognize, her lies. I felt like I had a stone in my gut. Kay woke up acting normal, or what had become her version of normal, lately annoyed, distant. Acting like I was an inconvenience she had to tolerate. She was rummaging around the kitchen, slamming cabinet doors louder than necessary. I was sitting at the table pretending to scroll on my phone, but really I was just watching her, trying to figure out how someone could cheat on their spouse and then complain that we were out of oatmeal. Then she said something that pushed me from silent suffering straight into anger. She snapped, "Can you please stop looking at me like that? God, you're so needy lately." Needy. That word hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't being needy, I was being betrayed. Still, I swallowed it down. I wasn't ready to explode yet. I needed the right moment, and that moment came sooner than I thought. As she grabbed her bag to leave for another long shift, her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't notice. She walked out of the room to grab her jacket. I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But at this point, the line between snooping and trying to figure out if my marriage is real felt meaningless. The preview on the screen said, "Same place tonight? It'll get us the corner table from Morgan, not Morgana, not a co-worker, not innocent." This wasn't a work thing. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional. A date. Planned. Casual. Like it was just their normal routine. I felt something inside me snap, not loud, not dramatic, but quiet and irreversible. Like the crack of ice before it breaks completely. By the time she came back into the room, I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't confused or scared or trying to deny anything. I was done pretending. I looked at her and said, "We need to talk tonight." She gave me this irritated eye roll and muttered, "Whatever." Like I'd asked her to take out the trash instead of. That entire day felt like the longest work day of my life. I couldn't concentrate on anything. Emails blurred together, conversations went in one ear and out the other. All I could think about was what I was going to say to Kay and what she might say back. By the time I got home, my stomach was in knots. I kept rehearsing the conversation in my head, trying to stay calm, trying not to picture her with someone else. But every time the image popped up, it felt like someone stabbed me right under the ribs. Kay walked in about an hour later, looking way too put together for someone who supposedly just got off a late shift. Hair perfect, makeup refreshed, smelling like a perfume she doesn't normally wear. She dropped her keys on the counter and sighed dramatically, like I was already annoying her by existing in the same room. "So," she said, crossing her arms, "what's this big thing you just had to talk about?" Her tone wasn't confused or worried or nervous. It was inconvenienced, and that alone almost set me off. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Where were you tonight?" She blinked once slowly and then scoffed. "Are you seriously doing this right now?" "I was at work, obviously." She walked past me toward the bedroom like the conversation was over. But I didn't let her leave this time. "Kay," I said, louder, firmer, "I know you weren't at work. were. She froze in the hallway for half a second before turning around with this exaggerated, bratty expression. "Oh my God, are you checking up on me now? That's pathetic. You're being paranoid and controlling." There it was. The gaslighting. I took a deep breath and said, "I saw the restaurant charge, and the text from Morgan." Her face twitched anger first, then panic, then instantly back to anger like she was scrambling to stay ahead of the truth. "You went through my phone," she shouted, ignoring literally everything else I'd said. "I saw the notification," I shot back. "You left it on the counter." She rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised she didn't sprain something. "Wow. So you're spying on me because you're insecure. Great." Even in that moment with the evidence piled against her, she doubled down on lying. She wasn't I didn't even raise my voice at first. I think that surprised her more than anything. I just looked at her and said, "Kate, I'm not stupid. Please stop lying." Her jaw tightened. She crossed her arms even harder like she was physically trying to hold the lie together. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. You always do this. You twist things to make me look bad." That hit me like a slap. I'd barely confronted her about anything in our entire marriage. I was the one who let things go. I was the one who tried to keep the peace. Now I was always the problem. I stepped closer, holding the blouse and the receipt. "Yes, I'd pulled both out before she got home." "Explain these," I said quietly. She stared at them like she'd never seen fabric or paper before. Then she launched into the most absurd, insulting explanation I've ever heard in my life. That, oh my God, the blouse, I spilled something on it at work. One of the girls hugged me and she wears cheap makeup. And the restaurant receipt, I grabbed dinner with a coworker, okay? It was a work meeting. Not everything is some huge conspiracy. She said this with a straight face, knowing full well that I knew full well that she was lying. I think that was the moment the switch flipped in me. I said, "Kate, the text said last night was insane. Is that part of the business meeting too?" Her reaction wasn't guilt. It wasn't fear. It wasn't remorse. She laughed, actually laughed, like I was a clueless idiot. She tossed her hair back and said, "You're so dramatic. You always assume the worst. Maybe if you weren't so suffocating, I wouldn't feel like I have to talk to other people." There it was. The implied blame. Somehow her affair was my fault. I felt something crack emotionally. Mentally, I don't know. A pressure I'd been holding in for weeks suddenly surged upward. "Just tell me the truth," I said, "please." She huffed, rolled her eyes again, her favorite move, and snapped, "Fine. If you must know, Morgan is just someone who understands me. Because you don't. Happy now?" Insane logic. Zero. That last line, "maybe if you were a better husband," did something to me I didn't expect. It didn't make me yell. It didn't make me plead. It didn't make me cry. It made me go completely, terrifyingly calm. There's a type of calm that comes after you've been emotionally beaten down enough times. A kind of numbness that feels like your brain finally throws its hands up and says, "Okay, we're done here." That's what hit me. I remember setting the blouse and the receipt down on the counter very gently, like they were fragile objects. Then I looked at her and said, "So this is who you've decided to be." She scoffed again, like the conversation was beneath her. "Oh, stop being melodramatic. Couples go through things. You're acting like I murdered someone." "No," I said quietly, "you just killed our marriage." For the first time all night, she actually froze. Just for a second. I think she realized she pushed too far, not because she regretted anything, but because it finally occurred to her she might lose control of the situation. She tried a new tactic then, pretending to cry. It was so fake it was almost insulting. Her voice got all shaky and she dabbed at her completely dry eyes. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she said, in a tone so rehearsed it could have won her a role on a bad soap opera. "I'm just so stressed. You don't understand how much pressure I'm under." Stress, sure. Stress causes messy receipts, secret cologne, late night dates, and winking texts. I didn't say anything. I just kept staring at her. She started to get irritated again when she realized her performance wasn't working. "Well, aren't you going to say anything?" I finally answered with the truth that had settled deep in my chest. "I don't even recognize you." Her face hardened instantly, tears gone, act dropped. Wow. Real mature. She grabbed her purse and said, "You know what? I'm going out. I can't deal with your negativity right now." And she walked out the door. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to fix anything. Just left, and as the door slammed shut, something clicked inside me. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a battlefield I'd been fighting on alone. And for the first time since everything started, I wasn't scared of losing her. I was scared of how long I'd stay. When the door closed behind her, the silence in the house felt different, heavier, almost echoing. It was the kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it sits on your chest. I stood there for a long moment, not moving, not thinking, just existing in the wreckage of what had just happened. For weeks, I'd been walking around with this anxiety eating me from the inside. Now, it felt like the anxiety had burned out, leaving nothing but this hollow ache. I wandered into the living room and sat on the couch, staring at absolutely nothing. The TV remote was next to me, but I didn't turn it on. The quiet felt more honest than anything Kate had said in the past month. I checked my phone out of habit. Nothing from her. Not a sorry. Not a let's talk, not even a manipulative guilt trip, just total silence. She hadn't even bothered pretending she cared. And here's where the spiral started. For the first time all night, when the adrenaline crash hit, the emotions came flooding in. I felt anger, humiliation, heartbreak, confusion, every single one slamming into me like waves with no break between them. Sudden events kept hitting me in my own head. The restaurant receipt, the last night was insane text, her laughing at me, her blaming me, her walking out like I was the problem. I couldn't stop replaying it all. At one point, I grabbed a pillow and just screamed into it because the pain felt physical, like claws scraping down my ribs from the inside. I didn't even know I could feel that kind of hurt. It was like grieving someone who was still alive but choosing not to be the person she promised to be. I kept asking myself stupid questions, ones I knew had no answers. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Did she ever actually love me? How long has this been going on? Who is Morgan to her? Why wasn't I worth the truth? It was a full emotional collapse, and I didn't even try to hide it. There was no one to hide it from. I cried actual ugly crying, the kind you can't swallow down or blink away. At some point, I checked the location sharing app we'd kept installed for safety reasons, not even to stalk her, just because I needed to know. She had turned her location off. That hit harder than I want to admit. Not just the affair, not just the lies, but the absolute freedom with which she erased herself from my world. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, it felt like my brain replayed the confrontation in high definition. The lying, the laughter, the way she walked out like I was an inconvenience instead of her husband. When the sun finally came up, it didn't feel like a new day. It felt like a spotlight shining on the ruins. Kay still wasn't home. I checked the driveway. Her car was gone. Her location was still off. No texts, no calls, nothing, just silence. Normally she'd come home at weird hours even during her late shifts, but this was the first time she didn't show up at all. You'd think that would break me more, but honestly, it weirdly clarified things. Whatever line she crossed last night, she didn't seem interested in walking back from it. Around 9 a.m., I finally heard the front door unlock. She walked in wearing the same clothes, hair messy, makeup smudged, smelling like someone else's cologne mixed with stale wine. She didn't even look hungover, just tired, detached, empty. "Morning," she said flatly, like we were roommates who had barely spoken in a week. No apology, no explanation, no concern, just that cold, dismissive tone that had become her default. I stood up from the couch. I hadn't planned a speech or anything, but I knew I couldn't let this turn into another pretend it didn't happen situation. "Where were you?" I asked. She shrugged, like I'd asked what she wanted for breakfast. "Out," she said, brushing past me toward the bedroom. Something in me cracked at that, another quiet, devastating crack. I followed her, not yelling, not blocking her way, just needing something from her. Honesty, accountability, anything human. "Kay, we can't keep pretending this is normal." She turned around so fast you'd think I'd insulted her. "You're still on this?" After that morning, I felt like I was living in some warped version of reality. Every interaction with Kay felt like walking through a funhouse mirror, distorted, surreal, and utterly cruel. She acted like nothing happened, like the night of revelations was some minor disagreement we could brush off. Meanwhile, my brain was on fire, replaying the lies, the texts, the receipts, the perfume, and the blouse over and over like a sick loop I couldn't escape. I stopped trying to talk to her rationally. Every time I did, she twisted it, gaslight me, or outright laughed. My anger and sadness became this weird cocktail that made me feel both exhausted and hyper-alert at the same time. I'd catch myself zoning out at work or sitting in the car after errands, just thinking about how she could look me in the eye and act like the cheating, lying mess of a betrayal was my fault. One sudden event escalated the spiral. She posted on social media a picture of herself at brunch with friends, or so I thought. I saw the comments. One of them was Morgan. They were laughing in the comments like nothing had happened, like she had zero shame. That really hit me. Not just the affair, but the pride she took in her audacity. I realized I was grieving two people at once. The woman I thought I married and the life I believed we had. That grief wasn't neat. It wasn't just sadness. It was betrayal, humiliation, rage, loneliness, and disbelief all stacked on top of each other. I cried in the shower. I yelled into pillows. I sat silently in our living room with my head in my hands, wondering if I'd ever feel safe trusting anyone again. But in the middle of that mess, something quietly started to shift. Anger began to morph into resolve. Pain started to teach me something I didn't want to admit. I couldn't fix her. I couldn't make her love me, or respect me, or stop. After a few days of that emotional wreckage, I realized I had to make some decisions. I couldn't keep existing in this limbo of betrayal, lies, and gaslighting. But deciding what to do wasn't simple. My mind swung wildly between anger, sadness, and the faintest glimmer of numb relief at the idea of her leaving for good. I started by listing my options literally, with pen and paper, trying to separate emotion from reality. Good luck with that. Try to work it out, marriage counseling, tough conversations. Maybe we could salvage something. But then I remembered the way she laughed when I confronted her, the way she blamed me, the casual way she hid the affair and continued it. Counseling felt like putting lipstick on a flaming dumpster. Separate, stay in the house. She's clearly manipulative. If I stayed, I'd be trapped in this toxic dynamic with constant tension, lies, and more betrayals. That was unthinkable. Separate, leave the house, probably the cleanest solution for my mental health, but scary. New place, new routines, losing the comfort of shared life even though the trust was shattered. I spent a night pacing, thinking about all of it. Each option felt heavy, but staying in the marriage, even attempting to work things out, felt like actively signing up for more betrayal and gaslighting. I realized that was something I simply couldn't do. By the end of the night, I made the decision. I had to remove myself from the situation, not because I didn't love her anymore, because what I loved was gone, but because I had to protect my sanity, my dignity, and my future. It was terrifying. I'd never imagined leaving my wife. Not like this, but the fear was outweighed by the certainty. Once I made the decision to leave, the next few days were a blur of logistics and emotional chaos. I started slowly disentangling myself from the life we had built together. Bank accounts, shared subscriptions, and small personal items. It all had to be sorted carefully because I didn't want her manipulating me further. Every little task felt like walking on shards of glass. The worst part wasn't packing or finances, it was the confrontation that came when I finally told her, calmly but firmly, that I was leaving. Her reaction was predictably dramatic. First, she tried anger. "You're overreacting. You're being ridiculous. I can't believe you're throwing away everything." Then came guilt tripping. "After everything I've been dealing with, you're really going to abandon me?" Finally, she tried the manipulative charm. "I can change. Just don't do this." Every single tactic made me angrier, not sadder. I realized she had been rehearsing these moves for months, years, maybe just waiting for me to falter. I held my ground. I said, "I can't live like this anymore. I deserve honesty. I deserve respect. And right now, I deserve peace." She laughed, not a soft laugh, but the same bitter, mocking kind that had punctuated our fights for months. "Peace? You think leaving me gives you peace? You'll never forgive me, and you'll never be happy." I didn't respond. I had nothing left to say. Every word I could have spoken had already been drowned out by her lies and betrayal. The moment she realized I wasn't changing my mind, she stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. I sat down amidst half-packed boxes and felt an unexpected. The first few weeks after she left were surreal. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty, like it was breathing in the absence of her lies. I didn't fill the silence arguments with friends or distractions at first. I just sat with it, let the shock, the grief, and the anger wash over me until I could finally think without feeling like my chest was being crushed. I started small, changing locks, canceling shared accounts, moving her things out that I had no use for. Every action felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Even mundane tasks, laundry, grocery shopping, cleaning became oddly therapeutic. Emotionally, it was messy. Some nights I cried so hard I thought my neighbors would hear. Some mornings I woke up and felt almost nothing, just a hollow space where the betrayal had lived. But gradually, the rawness softened. Anger turned into clarity. Heartbreak into determination. I also leaned on friends and family for the first time in years. It was humbling and comforting to have people remind me that I was not alone in this, that my feelings were valid, and that I didn't deserve this treatment. One particularly surreal moment came when I passed the Italian restaurant where Shed met Morgan. I almost walked in out of curiosity, anger, or some sad need for closure, but I didn't. I just kept walking. For the first time, I didn't need to witness her betrayal firsthand to know it was real. I had enough evidence. I had enough truth. I began thinking about the future, the life I actually wanted, not the one I had assumed I'd have. Slowly, looking back now, it's hard to believe how quickly everything unraveled and how blind I was to the warning signs. I kept making excuses for Kate, telling myself she was just stressed, moody, or overworked. I ignored the subtle red flags, the secretive fun habits, the late nights, the small lies because I wanted to believe in the marriage I thought we had. That denial cost me weeks of pain that could have been avoided. The confrontation was devastating. Watching the person I trusted most in the world lie, manipulate, and blame me for their own betrayal is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. It broke me in ways I didn't know were possible. And yet, the aftermath, the isolation, the heartbreak, the anger also became a turning point. It forced me to face reality, to prioritize my own well-being, and to reclaim my life on my own terms. Here's what I've learned and what I detail anyone in a similar situation. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let your desire to believe in someone blind you to the truth. Evidence matters, but your feelings do too. You don't need a full confession to know something is wrong. Your intuition and observations are valid. Confrontation is painful but necessary. Avoiding it only prolongs the suffering. You deserve answers and honesty. Protect yourself first. Emotional, financial, and physical safety should come before trying to fix someone who refuses to change. Healing takes time. You will feel anger, sadness, humiliation, and relief all at once. Let yourself feel it. Don't rush it. Most importantly, I've learned that self-respect is non-negotiable. Being cheated on, lied to, and gaslighted by someone who is supposed to love you is devastating, but is also a chance to reclaim your life. I'm not where I want to be yet, and some days still hit hard, but am moving forward. I've started to rebuild my life slowly, carefully, and intentionally, and am realizing that freedom from betrayal is its own kind of peace. So to anyone out there doubting themselves, hiding evidence, or clinging to lies, trust yourself, act with clarity, and don't let anyone steal your worth. Some people are never going to value you the way you deserve, and that's not your failure, it's theirs. And honestly, leaving Kay was the hardest decision I've ever made, but also the most liberating. Well, that's all. Click like, subscribe to this channel, and have a good day, everyone.